Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Team Excellence Call. This is Lynn Gardner. I'm calling in from beautiful Virginia. Somebody asked me before the call started what kind of day we're having. It's absolutely magnificent. But we had a little fog this morning. The sun's out, shining brightly, and it's a little cold. We haven't quite hit winter yet, but it definitely got a bite to it. And if there's any time of year, Virginia's just beautiful, at least my part of Virginia is. Any time of year I whine just a little bit is when we hit into the cold, and I'm longing for the green. But, it's a magnificent day. I do have to ask you guys to forgive me for my voice. I'm struggling a little bit with it this morning. But, I was thinking about how, you know that I was a real estate auctioneer for a long time, 18 years, and over those 18 years, I did 5,000 auctions, so you can imagine I was doing a lot of them. Well, what happened to me was like in the last, maybe 5, 6, 7 years of me working in that business, every single fall, I would lose my voice. Completely. And I would lose it completely for like a week to 10 days. It was really caused a lot of stress, because it's not a good thing for an auctioneer to be voiceless, But thank God I never lost it, during a critical time. I somehow it always worked out that I had my voice when I needed to have my voice. But, I realized just 2 falls into this business that I hadn't lost my voice at all since I started drinking Kangen water. So I struggle a little bit. I know I need to increase my water intake, but thank God I haven't gone through that again. I guess my vocals are hydrated. So, it made me think about a woman that I was sharing water with. And I gave she and her husband water, and I called the next day to check on them, and I said, so how you doing? I was kind of looking, do we have any detoxing going on? And she says, I can sing. I wish I could see my face when this woman says, I feel great, I can sing, because I'm thinking, what in the world? And she explained to me, she said, you don't know that it's a big deal, because, I was in the church choir for years, and then I just got to a point where I had no voice control. I just couldn't sing, but I still sing around the house. And she said, and this morning after drinking Kangen water, I can sing. So, you just don't know the power of what we have. And sometimes, those certainly aren't, life-threatening things, but praise God, they're big deals. So I'm very grateful that although I'm struggling a little bit this morning, I do have a voice, and I haven't lost my voice in this whole time since I've been walking this journey. So I just want to start out with a reminder. We all know that we're in a very busy time of year. We're in the midst of a precious holiday season. And, for those of us that want to work, need the money, it's not time to sit back, and it's not time to excuse away, the rest of the remaining part of this year because of the busyness of the season. We still have 2 weeks before we even hit Christmas, and yet I know people that are already sitting back saying, well, next year. Well, that's good if you have that prerogative in your life and you want to idle out until next year, but you're going to work really hard to get yourself going again. It's not the time to let the rest of the year slip by. And, in fact, it's a fabulous time to be prospecting. It's unbelievable, because most people are in a pretty good mood. They're in good spirits. We're at the holiday season, and most people that you'll run into out and about are happy, and they're shuffling around in masses, so it's a great time to prospect. I'm telling on myself here, but I'd really rather have my teeth pulled than go to a mall, ever. I'm just not one that likes to meander around a mall. I don't like shopping that much, believe it or not. But I'll do it in the Christmas season, believe me. I may not stand in line to purchase something, but I'll be out there at the mall mingling around all these happy people, trying to prospect. My poor team just doesn't get a whole lot of slack from me. God bless them. They love me in spite of it. But, I'll hear so many excuses. We all do. We all make excuses, and we all hear a lot of excuses, But one of the things at this time of year in particular, we'll hear a lot about, well, I just don't have time. Well, I'm just too busy. And the reason I just don't give them a whole lot of slack is because, my story, some of you, that I was a single mom with 4 kids. Can you even imagine 4 teenagers with one adult all at the same time? It was crazy, right? And so I was their provider in all ways. I was their chauffeur, their chief cook and bottle washer, their disciplinarian, their spiritual leader. I had a very busy career so that I could at least feed those kids. And I was also taking care of my parents, financially and otherwise. This was all happening at once. So when people tell me they're too busy, I just got to laugh and say, when you can top that and survive it, then we'll have a chat. But until then, let's stop with the excuses, because where there's a will, there is always a way. Somebody once asked me recently here, as we're approaching holidays, they said, how do you spend New Year's? And I had to laugh because my life has evolved, considerably since my younger days, obviously. But, for many years I set out to go to the best party. And I'm not talking about a drunken brawl. I just like the elegance and just opulence of a big party, and I have gone to some fine parties. And then I became a mom, and I started staying home, on New Year's with my own family. And then I started taking in nieces and nephews so that my sister and her family or her husband could go out on New Year's. And so for years I had, 11 kids here at least that would spend New Year's Eve with me. And I have to say I probably had more fun doing that than ever in my life. But now it's evolved even further. My kids are grown, and I don't take those kids in, and I'm not back out looking for a great party. I really have a really quiet New Year's, and I spend it as a time of reflection. It's just me and my God, and I'll usually have a fireplace going, maybe I'll have a glass of wine, but I'm really thinking about just giving thanks for what I'm closing out in that year, all the wonderful things that happened, the challenges that happened, the mistakes that happened, the things that I did wrong, and I'll reflect on the new year. I actually pray in the new year, so it's a beautiful time, for me. But as soon as that New Year's is over, and as soon as we get through, New Year's Day, I get real serious because it's something I have done for myself and my career for I don't even know how long, at least 25 years. And that is that I take the end of the year, the week between Christmas and New Year's, and I seriously plan the next year. Now, I won't shut down my business. I'll still be working my business. But in the other time that I have to work with, I'll be focused on, planning this new year. Because, if we don't plan, we don't get anywhere. If we don't put a plan behind our why, it's just a wish list. It's like looking at in the old days, a catalog and wishing for things you could have. If we don't have a plan, we can't take a road trip and end up anywhere. You got to have a plan. And as we prepare our meals, for instance, for our families throughout the holiday, if we don't have a plan and you don't have a recipe to follow, you're not going to come up with anything. You have to have a plan for everything in life. So before we set out our plan, we have to be committed and true to ourselves. That's one of the hardest things for a lot of us. And Omar was just mentioning that it's a personal development. We have to look at ourselves realistically and honestly and want to improve and want to be better. But we also have to be true and honest with ourselves to get there. So your plan is very personal, and your plan should be for you because only you can fulfill that plan, and only you can fool yourself. That's another thing that my poor team has to hear all the time is, hey, you can fool yourself, but you can't fool me. You've got to be true to yourself. If things aren't just going to happen by osmosis, So rest assured that every job on the planet has leadership behind a company. If you had a job, they have already set out a plan for you that includes you. There's not a business on the planet that doesn't, have a plan, a 1-year plan, a 5-year plan, however far, they go out with it. But you've been part of a plan, an annual plan, your entire life, whether you realize it or not. But now it's time for you to do the planning. So, management strategizes what needs to be done to reach their financial goals. And so do you. And if you were working for somebody else, it just trickled down to you. But rest assured, if you had a job, let's assume you have a 6-figure paycheck job. What a blessing that would be for some people, right? But if you had a 6-figure paycheck job and your boss handed you a plan of action for that year and said, this is what I expect you to accomplish in 2016, if you want to keep receiving your paycheck, you'd do it. And, you need an even bigger fire under your feet for when you work for yourself and if you work for somebody else. So you have to be true to yourself. You have to make a plan. So how do you do that? What does that look like? Well, although my plan is usually ridiculously detailed, I won't bore you all to tears with that, I do want to give you some basics that might help you as you begin to develop your plan. The first thing that we have to do is we always have to evaluate our goals. In our world, that's called a why. So you have to take a look at your why. And is your why, again, as Tamia would say, if your why doesn't make you cry, it's not big enough. If your why doesn't keep you awake at night or make you hit the ground in the morning just excited, it's not big enough. But you also have to have a why that's obtainable. So for instance, your why might be, I want to buy the island of Fiji one day. Well, that's great, but you're going to get discouraged along the way because it's just too big, for you to be be working toward today. But it does need to be something that is making you stretch. That's the whole thing. It's like an athletic team. You always got to be pushing and stretching and fighting to be a little bit better than you are today. So your why has to be, big. It has to be manageable, but it has to be big. And it's always tied to income, isn't it? I mean, we can say why all we want, but it always correlates down to sales or correlates down to income. So you have to look at your why and say, did I make significant progress toward that in 2015? And if not, why not? What happened? You have to evaluate where you're coming from before you can assess where you need to go. So maybe you met your why. Maybe your why wasn't as big as my why. My why is to, by the way, pay off my mortgage. That's it for me. I just want to, owe no man nothing. But maybe your why was you wanted to buy a new car or go on a cruise. I don't know. But did you meet it? So you have to reevaluate where you are. And you have to evaluate, frankly, does it need to be bigger? Is it big enough to push you and stretch you? Is it big enough to get you out of your comfort zone? Is it big enough to give you the fight that you need to maybe work your way through some of the fears that we all face, So then you set the financial goal for the year. So you look at that why, what's my goal, where am I going, and then you have to kind of break that down into a financial goal. And you have to say, how much money do I want or need to make this year? I would say want, not need, because we always want more than we have, right? So I would say, how much money do I want to make this year? And so naturally, you're not going to say $10 million. Who wouldn't want to make $10 million? But that's not realistic. That's too far out there for us. But we have to set a goal that, is big enough, again, but if you stretch it, you can obtain it. And after you determine that, this is very important, guys, you need to write it down. It needs to be visible. It needs to be something that you write, that you're being true to yourself, that you commit to it, and you write down what that needs to be. And then from there, you determine, okay, if I need to make X amount of dollars, what does that look like in our world? How many sales on the average within our group would that equate to? So you're breaking it down into simple things. So the big thing is, as you're working through this, all of us, again, struggle with fear. So as you're stretching yourself out there, maybe beyond where you've ever been before, you're stretching yourself out for financial goals that, you've never seen before. Do not let fear and negative thoughts get in the way. You cannot let that happen. You look at where you want to go. You make a commitment to where you want to go. You write down where you want to go, and you throw all that stuff to the curb, because you'll have those thoughts like, why would I ever think I could make that? I've never made that. You kick that stuff to the curb, because that's what will get in the way of you stretching out and believing that you can do it, So what efforts do you take to get there? And I get asked that a lot. Like, what does that look like? What do I do? How do I set my goals? Well, I'm just going to give you a few things that I want you to carefully consider as you set your goals for 2016. For my numbers, at least for me personally, are bigger than what I'm going to share with you, but I want to break it down for you so that you can see how just the simplest, most basic goals in your plan for 2016 could build you an empire. So imagine if you made it your goal, if you said, I'm not going to stop, I'm not going to rest until I make 10 new prospects a week. Now, for me, my number's a lot bigger, okay? But let's just say it's just 10 new prospects a week, just 10. That could break down to 2 prospects a day if you work at 5 days a week. If you don't, maybe you're a part-timer. Maybe you have to get 5 on one day and 5 on another day. If you just said, I will not rest until I get 10 new prospects a week. Now, as a reminder, prospects aren't like, going on the Internet and finding a phone number or pulling somebody's card off of a pile in a restaurant or something. Prospects are people that you at least have touched with, you talk to briefly, that you have actually prospected, talked to with the intent of meeting to share what we have. So those are prospects. So there's not random, no conversation kind of information. But if you just went through 10 prospects a week for every single week of the year, that would be 520 new people, 520 opportunities to share, 520 possible lives to change. Can you even imagine 520? And don't you think that you could build an empire if all you had were just 10 new prospects a week? You bet you could. Imagine if you made it your mission to attend just one new networking group a month. Now, that's not something you're already involved with. So if you're, part of a BNI group or part of a Toastmasters group or part of a chamber group and you go there every month, that doesn't count. You're already working that group. But what if you said, I'm going to identify one new networking group a month, and I'm going to go there and attend a new group each month. Now, that could be you could go in as a guest to a BNI group, or you could go to a Chamber of Commerce mixer if you're not part of Chamber, something, one of these networking groups, and you just went to one new one a month. those groups can usually open the door to, 40 to 50 new warm leads for you to follow up with. And what do I mean warm? Because when you follow up, you can say, I'm not sure we met directly, but I was at the BNI meeting on Monday. I'm not sure if we had a chance to talk, but I was at the Chamber of Commerce Mixer on Thursday night. It's a warm lead. You have an opening because you had something in common. Well, imagine just 40 new networking leads a month. That's another 480 warm leads that you can add to your year in 2016. So, if we add the two together, it's almost 1,000 people for 2016. And all you've done is made a very basic commitment to try to come up with 10 new prospects a week, and you've gone to one networking group per month. I mean, that is just about as basic as you can possibly get and still be doing our business. So don't you think you could build an empire if you had 1,000 new prospects every year? You bet you could. Imagine if you could identify just one public water share opportunity per month. Perhaps that's you meet up with a salon, a local salon in your area, and you agree that you can set up a table and share water with the customers for the day, and they can sign up for a drawing to get a coupon, a gift certificate to that salon. If you do this on a busy day, let's say you did it on a Saturday, the average business anywhere in America on a Saturday is going to see 50 plus customers. I mean, that's a no-brainer. So just imagine if 50 people signed up for that free drawing. If they go to, let's use that salon, if that's a routine place for them to go, that's very, appealing to them to be able to just register here for a drawing. But imagine, 50 more people that you could add to your list of prospects, for every single month if you just did that 1 month. So again, those 50 people for 12 months a year, that's 600 new possibilities. So far with just 3 very simple tasks, we have a basic plan of action. We have one that anybody can do, whether you're part-time, full-time, whether you have 2 hours a week or 10 hours a day. It doesn't really matter what you have. You can make this plan work. This is about as basic as you can get. We do have to work on things, some basic things like, your elevator speech. What do I say your icebreaker? What do I say? Because one of the things that I think we all fall into, and I was the world's worst, by the way, is saying too much. You want to say enough to tease somebody into sitting down and talking with you. You don't want to start just saying all kinds of things that sound ridiculous. You never get the meeting. So we have to practice what those things are. And, you can mirror somebody, just tag along and see how they handled it, or you can, get with your sponsor and talk about it. But I would recommend that you actually, come up with opening lines and objection lines and that you memorize them and get really good about them and get good about saying them with passion in your voice. I was thinking about how when I went to auction school, we had to learn the numbers, forwards, backwards, split them. You had to have numbers in your mind, forward numbers, backwards numbers, fraction numbers. You had to have it all in your mind so that you really didn't have to think about it. When something happened out there from the block, you could come out with the number. And that's really what we have to get to with our business. We want to be as natural as we can, but one thing that people fear when they're need to face prospecting is, I don't know what to say, or what do I say that I do, or how do I get that appointment? They just don't know. Well, you know what, guys? You've got to come up with something that works for you, and you've got to practice it. And when somebody throws you a curveball, you have the line to say to them when they object. And when somebody tries to, avoid meeting, you have the line to say to object. Just like I did when I had to learn my numbers forwards, backwards. There was nothing that could come as a surprise, and that's where you have to get when you're prospecting. But getting back to this, what we came up to in just a simple plan, we're about 1,600 new prospects for 2016. And again, if this is a basic plan, and if you're out of bed and working it at all, you ought to be able to do that. But, maybe you haven't done it because you've never had that plan. So, you really do need to give some consideration to setting forth a plan, a serious plan, and there couldn't be a better time of year to do that. Imagine if you it took every opportunity. We're supposed to market to events, and sometimes people get confused by that. An event is anything. Orlando was talking about having people on his call yesterday, and from that call, sales were made. That's an event. Maybe a webinar. I was on a fabulous webinar on Monday with some guests, and it was Rhonda and Ron Gessner were on, and they had Eli and Jelena on. It was a fabulous call. It just really moved my guests. Webinar, a local demo, a major event. If we made it our goal to try to get, to invite 10 people to any one event, anything at all. Orlando's call, a local demo, whatever, just 10 people. We know that the law of averages, if you invite 10 people, probably going to narrow down to 3. That's just statistically the way it usually works. Some people are masterful at being able to get them there, but statistically, out of 10 invites, 3 are going to show. But the other statistic, out of the 3, 1 will buy. And so if we just made it our mission that once a week we're going to market to an event, some event, a local demo, a webinar, it doesn't matter, one event, and our goal was 10, and we were ready to live with the stats of 3, closing 1. That's 52 sales that you could make in 2016 just by marketing to that event. And those are very bottom conservative numbers. So, the list could go on and on and on. Again, these are just basics, but remember, you can't go anywhere without a plan. And I'm sure that there's somebody in your group or your organization, your upline, your sponsors, whatever, that can sit down with you and help you determine that plan. What I've given you are just some basics, again, basics that everybody can do. So my hope for you is that you will take that time between Christmas and New Year's, continue to work your business, but make it your mission that you're going to come out with a goal for yourself, a strong, ambitious, and exciting goal for yourself, and that you're going to look towards 2016 with excitement because, you can accomplish that goal. That why is right on the horizon, and the only thing that's going to keep you from your why is if you don't keep your eye on your why and you don't keep moving toward that. So take the time to plan your business, be committed, face 2016 with momentum and action, and always, always, always be true to yourself because, you have your own business. And it's, you're going to get there by your own efforts. Nobody else can get you there. Nobody else can force you there. Nobody else can hold your hand there. You've got to be true to yourself. Make the commitment. Be true to yourself. So on that note, I want to say God bless you to all. I hope you have a marvelous day, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.